If you were celebrating a bachelorette party in the middle of nowhere when assailants began picking your party off one by one, what would you do? These 8 women drove out into the desert for a girls' weekend, accidentally stumbling into a group of bros who want to kill them for some reason. Doesn't really matter, of course. We're just trying to survive them, which means we're hitting back with everything we have. It's time to get turned up at the most uptight, budget, bougie bachelorette party west of the Rockies, and to go to war. I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the uninvited guests in Fear the Night. You may have noticed I'm back. I swear, you leave the basement door unlocked one time when you go out to get some more milk for your cereal, and your employees try to make a run for it. Am I right? At least the Stockholm Syndrome's kicking in. I mean, Martin could have easily walked out the front door, but instead decided to do my work for me. If you want to hear more from him, comment something like, "Free Martin." If not, well, let's just say you won't be hearing from him again. Anyways, back to the video. Tess isn't like the other girls. She came back from serving in Fallujah with a chip the size of Wisconsin on her shoulder. She can't turn off her paranoia. She can't shake the feeling that something is coming, and she just so happens to be very right, which makes her a total buzzkill at her younger sister Rose's bachelorette party. It's made even worse by Beth, their other sister, who considers Tess a total f*** up and argues with her at every opportunity. Don't mind us, the rest of your guests. We'll just be over here, judging you. The gang arrives to the middle of nowhere in the California desert, because why drive the extra hour to Vegas for a proper dirty weekend? They have an uncomfortable run-in with some good old boys in town, where Tess calls one out for pretending to have served in the military when he didn't. They find more guys hanging around their parents' property. Tess senses something's wrong from the get-go, while the other women drink and play Never Have I Ever. She breaks into the old caretaker's house, as you do. The bed is stained with blood, and she overhears 2 guys say they need to handle something tonight. She returns to the house, just in time for the caterer to debut his side hustle as the party's clothing optional entertainment. She can't even enjoy that. Rose and Beth join her out on the porch when something flies out of the darkness. Tess carries Rose inside, but Beth is so shell-shocked she can't help Tess secure the door or call 911. The women start to panic. Magic Mike tries to take point in the chaos and... well, okay. Trucks turn their lights on in the house. The women are surrounded. One truck belongs to the creeps from the convenience store. Tess takes control. She tells the women to stack furniture against the doors and windows and go around unplugging every light in the house, so it'll be dark if the men try to enter. She tells the women to try calling 911, but there's no signal. Like she's reading out of the nerd handbook, she tells them the men are here to kill them quietly without alerting the neighbors, which explains why they're using crossbows instead of guns, I guess. I mean, there are such things as subsonic rounds and suppressors, but sure. She tells them to scour the house for weapons, scissors, fireplace pokers, knives. She says their father kept other things, including guns, out in the orchard shed, and if necessary, she can go get them. This is all solid starting strategy, but while she's gone, no one does jack shit. Ladies, might I offer you some agency in these trying times? Nerds, the Ridge has done it again. They know how stressful losing your wallet or keys can be, so they've developed the next-gen scientific color scheme called Hyper Lime to help you keep track of your most important day-to-day items no matter what you're doing. If you've seen my videos, you know I rely on products from The Ridge to help me get through my day. Their latest Hyper Lime products boast the same impressive quality as everything else they make. Their sleek and slim Ridge wallets still expand to hold up to 12 cards without hulking out, and are made with RFID blocking materials to help protect you from digital pickpockets. You can even AirTag them so they're never lost, even when they're lost. And their premium metal-plated Ridge key cases still hold up to 6 keys without jingling. Both still come with a lifetime warranty and a 99-day risk-free trial. But now, their Hyper Lime offerings light up the night. Whether you're zipping down those double diamond mountain slopes, or jogging at midnight, you'll spot your wallet or key case's fluorescent yellow-green scratch-resistant aluminum in a flash. It's a color that grabs your attention like nothing else. Ridge is offering you nerds a 10% discount on any of their products if you use my link, ridge.com/nerdexplains, and use my code NERDEXPLAINS. Grab a sweet Hyperlime razor or wallet, or go for one of their other 30+ colors and styles they offer, including carbon fiber, burnt titanium, forged ember, and burnt Damascus. Thanks to the Ridge for sponsoring this video. Tess spots a man slashing their tires outside and elects Divya to help her stop him. She'll go out to deal with him while Divya guards the door, warning her to only open if she hears 2 knocks followed by a pause, then another knock. Because the shock has reset their brains into neutral, Mia asks what they should do if she doesn't come back. She tells them the obvious: they'll have to fight to the death. I get it. This isn't what any of you half-drunk gold status brunch ladies expected today, and I appreciate the realism of a bunch of normies struggling to absorb the idea that they're being hunted. It does mean, though, that we are going to be carrying a lot of dead weight tonight. Hopefully in the figurative sense, but probably also in the literal sense. Tess slips out to the driveway, makes quick work of her target. What a badass! Personally, until I know these are just good old boys and don't have any special training, I'm not announcing myself before attacking. But at least she did it quietly. When Tess comes back inside, the women have gathered a buffet of makeshift weapons, including a couple screwdrivers, a corkscrew, meat mallet, knives, and pliers. Even a literal log of wood, which, honestly, cool. She goes upstairs to check on the girl who was supposed to be calling for help, but she's dead. She comes back down to a barrage of petty bullshit from her sister's friends. They blame her for sending the girl to call for help, then for getting into it with the guys at the convenience store, when they realize those same guys are among the intruders outside. The leader calls out to the women. He tells them that his men are planning on and murdering them all tonight. Then he demands that they open the door and let them get what they came for. Or else what? Did you not practice this speech beforehand? You started with the worst thing, so not the greatest incentive. Tess obviously refuses, but half of the female characters are willing to risk it, thinking the men might spare them if they go along. It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him. Beth yells that there's nothing of value in the house, but the guy disagrees. He knows that what he wants is inside, which begs an interesting question. Bro, did you have to charge the gates today? They weren't even here 12 hours ago, and they're leaving in 2 days. Why weren't you in and out before they even got here? Why couldn't you wait until they were gone? We learn that he's been planning this, I don't even want to call it a heist, it's too generous, for 6 months, and you picked today to carry it out. Why exactly? And then we find out Tess stabbed his tire slasher, so now he's making it personal.
At first I just want to spook him. Now I want to have a little fun.
Hate to be that guy. What am I saying? I don't. I love it. But you know who they are. They're the kids of the owner. Just come back after they're gone. Grab whatever you're here for, then track them down and kill them later. What's the problem here? But also, Tess, I think it's time to tear through the floor and check the attic, just in case we've got a green room situation on our hands. And we have plenty of time to do that, because almost an entire hour passes before they come up with their next idea. Seriously, neither side does anything. Tess wants to go for the gun in the orchard shed, but she wants a distraction, someone to draw attention to themselves. Run for the caretaker's house and use the landline there to call for the police, before sprinting off into the distance with no destination.
Certainty of death, small chance of success. What are we waiting for?
Mia volunteers, and Tess tells her to scream and make noise immediately after running from the house. Couple problems. First, they have ranged weapons. Second, it's at least a half mile to that house. Third, if there are bad guys down there, Mia will truly be on her own if we're doing this plan, which I don't think is the best option, but we'll get back to that. We're going to do a triple distraction. This would allow Tess to get the gun while Mia called the cops and escaped escaped alive. The women in the house need to make noise. Draw the men's attention to a specific place away from where Mia is running. Let Mia run to the caretaker's house, check that it's empty, and sneak in. Only after she's called the police should she make noise, drawing the men's attention away so Tess can sneak to the shed for the gun. Just when the men are running to catch Mia, the women can start making a racket again, drawing the men back to the house so Mia can escape. It might not work. It might just split their forces, but at least Mia doesn't take a bolt to the back halfway down the driveway. The better option to me is destroying the men one by one. Lure individual guys from the group using distractions and misdirection and kill them. This will only work until they figure out what is happening, but it narrows their numbers and evens the odds. But then we get this little scene.
Go f yourselves!
Wait a second, so there's just this wide open area no one is guarding, and we've been sitting here for an hour. If there are neighbors out here, which they keep telling us there are, why haven't we all just left by now? If Mia hadn't called out to the thieves, they wouldn't have even known she was gone. Tess runs for the shed, and Mia makes it to the cottage, but the phone isn't working. When she turns around, one of the men is there with a knife. She picks up a statue and beats him to death with Terminator efficiency. I mean, he was a level 1 poser, but solid follow through anyway. She bolts from the house and runs away into the dark. I hope you know where you're going. Back at the house, there's a knock at the front door. The knock, just similar enough to Tess's, the Divya cracks it open. Divya, there were windows right beside you. The intruders bust the door in and spread out as the ladies scatter. The leader finds Noelle crouching in the kitchen. The masked guy finds Beth in an upstairs hallway, and the archer pulls Bridget from under the bed. Trying to decide where to hide can be psychological torture in a situation like this, if you have limited time and it's not your house. But because we had a solid couple of hours of prep time before they broke in, there's really no excuse for this. The women should have picked a designated fallback room, one that they could barricade and fortify in the event these goons broke in. I would have also laid a few small traps to make it more difficult for them to navigate the space and maybe alert us to their location. For example, you can create a janky wind chime by wrapping string around a few forks and spoons. Tie it at ankle level, so when an intruder walks into it, you'll know where they are in the house. At the very least, retreat to the second level. Wedge the mattresses into the hall opening at the top of the stairs, and use one of those screwdrivers you have to unscrew the metal rods holding the bed frames together to use as lances. Tess, meanwhile, finds a little green secret in the shed. An entire farm has sprung up on her family's property since they were last here. The doofuses from the caretaker's house are dead. Mostly dead. One springs back to life, and she interrogates him for information, which only convolutes an already nonsensical villain motivation. This waste of space tells her the other guys found out that they were storing money in her family's house and planned to move it tonight to try and buy themselves some time. They said the girls at the house were their girlfriends and knew about everything, and they bought that? You with any of those girls. Those thieves really aren't working with a full deck, are they? She unties him, but of course, the second he's out of the chair, he bolts right into the waiting knife of another thief. Fortunately for Tess, the thief can only take out targets running directly into his blade, so she gets the fuck out of there. Back at the house, we get more top-tier dialogue that only works in the movies. And not even there. The leader tells the remaining women that he's showing them his face because none of them are leaving alive. Great. A clear threat. Intimidating and logical. But then he says he wants them to tell him about the money hidden in the attic. Why? If you know where the money is, why aren't you getting it? Get the goods, kill them, and leave. Why are you speeching at them like it matters at all? Then he demands to know where the army brat who humiliated him at the store is. Are you still not over that? For some reason, Bridget moves closer to them to throw Tess under the bus. Apparently, she couldn't do that from an extra 3 feet away. The leader rewards her immediately. Welp, I hope you don't need more information later, cause those two won't tell you a goddamn thing after this. The guys take a breather to discuss taking turns with the women after they've moved the money out of the house. The leader heads upstairs for the cash, and Noelle takes advantage. She spots Tess entering through the kitchen with a fire axe and seduces the larger guy, slipping a potato peeler behind her on the floor as she bends down in front of him, and Tess sneaks up on the other guy from behind. No one ever let this woman near a bag of actual potatoes. But seriously, solid execution all around. Good distraction. Great timing. I only have one note. Immediately pick up that knife afterward and turn his head into a piggy bank. I mean, I don't think he'll retaliate with a potato peeler lodged in his junk, but better safe than sorry. Tess tells them to finish the guy off and run away while she heads up to kill the leader. Would you look at that? He actually found the money that was never hidden in the first place. Still talking shit, he tries to negotiate a way out of this without fighting, but bad luck for him. She's into that shit. Ketchup splatters across both of their faces, making me want a Mickey D's 10-piece, and he finally dies. So yeah, this is the shoestring equivalent of a level 90 paladin taking on a bunch of level 1 noobs. If you're not a veteran, I'd suggest grabbing the bow and ending him with a bolt to the head from the stairs while he's not looking. Less cinematic, but also less risky. If you ever find yourself trapped in a house surrounded by bad guys with no way to call for help, step 1 is exactly what we see here. Barricade the entryways and gather all available weapons. That includes pans, toilet seat lids, broken broom handles, and anything. And weapons like those dozens of bottles of booze you brought with you, which could be repurposed into Molotov cocktails that you can throw from the second floor windows. Hint: wine and champagne bottles are designed not to break. Choose tequila and vodka bottles instead. Also, you know at least half of these women brought some sort of aerosol spray, which will make handy flamethrowers in a pinch. This is risky and probably only advisable if you have goggles on hand, but you can crush a piece of broken glass into pocket sand you can toss into your attacker's eyes. Use distractions to get individual attackers alone, so your odds are better when fighting. Look for breaches in the perimeter where you can escape, and scope out a designated fallback position during lulls. Oh, and if you have someone with actual combat experience on your side, listen to them. For those reasons, I think Fear the Night was beaten. And remember, always go for the triple tap.